Welcome to the first episode of Vulnerable Podcast, which we are calling From Basement Beds to Big Bucks, the Joel Snow origin story. And when a mature whitetail makes a mistake, when he steps out into the daylight, when he gets thirsty, cold, careless, or lonely, that's when we kill him. That's when he's vulnerable. I'm Corey Arbogast, your host, and my role is to interview Joel and our future guest every episode and feed great hunting techniques back into the world. And I'm here with a man who's been playing chess with giant whitetails since the 90s. Joel Snow has been an outfitter for 26 years. Joel takes on 40 to 50 clients at 5-star outfitters every year, while his clients harvest 30 to 40 mature bucks. He knows and has worked with some of the biggest names in the hunting industry, along with some very famous A-list celebrities. He's killed two 200-inch deer himself. He has stacked up more Boone & Crockett bucks than most guys will ever see in their life. He's also easily a part of the Whitetail 900 Club, and if you know what that is, you know what that means. This podcast is not for the weekend warrior looking for a shortcut. We're here to pass on real knowledge, from entry-level tactics to high-level strategy. So you stop hunting hard and start hunting smart. This is episode 1. It's raw, it's real, and it's time. You and I have a chance to learn a lot, so welcome to Vulnerable, episode 1, the beginning of many great episodes. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of Vulnerable with Joel Snow, Corey Arbogast. Chris Murphy is running everything. And so we have a lot to dig into. We actually started this podcast, 6, 7, 8 weeks ago, and then we scrapped it, and then we come up with a whole new name, whole new studio. We're kind of temporary right now, but we're going to move it. And I mean, we've made a lot of changes in the equipment. We've made a lot of changes.
It's been a work in progress. It has been a work in progress.
It's been the most stressful 1 month of my life. I'm just not that dramatic, but I mean, I've been pretty stressed out about getting all this running.
But I mean, for the most part, if somebody wants to start a podcast, they need to call you because you've gone through it all now, have you not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's been,
I had no idea what the involvement was with this.
Well, I think we wanted it to be perfect.
We did want it to be perfect.
Yeah. And so we weren't happy. So everybody, the name of the podcast is Vulnerable, and we're going to get into why we call it that. But we had another name. Am I right? 6 weeks ago? About
6 weeks ago.
Yeah. 6 weeks ago, we had another name, which is Age Over Inches, which we still like the name, and we're going to explain why we changed it. But, you know, we just didn't like it. We didn't like where we were. We didn't like our setup, and we decided to change. We did this table. Joel built these beautiful posts, and we're going to talk about that too, because I think it's a great fucking idea.
But I mean, it kind of evolved to Joel was in it heartedly 60%, and then once Joel became 100%, then it kind of evolved from there. It kind of evolved.
I told Joel one of my favorite things was seeing him get excited over the last 2 months, talking to your family, talking to your friends, kind of understanding what this can be. And, Joel doesn't have social media. Joel doesn't listen to podcasts. I don't think you've ever listened to a podcast, have you?
I've never listened to a podcast. No. I haven't had Facebook for
you had
15 years. I don't know.
2012, he started Facebook. He made one post, and I don't think he has since 2012. I checked it, by the way.
So it's like I'm helping with my 40th year reunion.
Yeah.
And the girl who I'm helping, she will ask to go on Facebook and see if everything looks all right. So Lisa will get my phone, and Lisa actually got logged into my Facebook the other day. Yes.
Yeah.
So I didn't look at it. It was 2012. Are you shitting me?
No, it was 2012. I looked up Joel Snow, and it was like 3 posts, and then never again. Never saw you again. You're out.
It's, I don't know. I'm a worry about myself and my family. I really don't care. I mean, everybody says it's a way of catching up with your friends and this and that. And I mean, I get that, but there's a whole bunch of stuff on there where people post that's bullshit for anyway.
Yeah. So Joel, what is the point of the, what's the point of this? Let me finish what is the point of this podcast? Why did we start? Why did, I had a different perception. I think the perception's evolved over the last 6 weeks. But why did we start this podcast? What is the goal? What are we doing here?
So we met kind of, by you were 16 years old, 15
Yep.
years old. I mean,
16.
not, I
Had my
mean, I
license.
knew you. I mean, I knew you and everything, but, and then we just kind of, you were wanting to get into the deer hunting thing. And at the time I was filming some hunts and you filmed me as a
Yeah.
cameraman and, several kills
Yeah.
and then, we would check in every now and then, but just years go by and, you asked me to come out and get a bite to eat and we discussed and you just kind of asked me, I know you kind of had an ulterior motive and what was in your mind. And you just kind of asked me what my end game was. Well, I've done this for 25, 26 years um, and you just kind of wanted to know what I was going to.
Oh
You
shit.
just
Hold
dropped
on.
your paper. You were, I mean, you said, Joel, you really don't know, but you have a lot to give and a lot of advice that you could give and and I've been pretty quiet about everything and pretty just kind of keep to my business and keep my head down and keep to myself and I think kind of take for granted everything that I do and I know
Have
and
accomplished.
yeah, and
Yeah.
accomplished. And so I just kind of thought instead of just riding off into the sunset and doing nothing, it would be good to kind of do this. And I mean, now what I'm going to say isn't necessarily religious or holy or whatever, but it is just stuff that over 25 years has worked for me. And I think I'm pretty good at what I do.
Yep.
So,
And
yeah.
so that's a good question. What do you do? What's the name of your business and what have you been doing the last 26 years?
So, my
25
business
years.
is 5-Star Outfitters, and um, it started in probably the mid '90s. I went on what kind of really got the ball rolling was I went on a hunt to Illinois, and it was I don't know, you know, well to
Back up.
back up.
Back up. We want to hear it
So
all.
it really started with the love for the outdoors when I was probably 12 or 13. We lived in the country, big woods behind our house. My dad was, he traveled a lot for work, wasn't around a lot. If he did get home, it was late. And don't ask me how, I kind of got into trapping. I couldn't wait for the Fur Fishing Game magazine to come in. I read every article, I loved Tom Miranda at the time, read all Tom Miranda articles, and I just started out coon trapping, turned into fox trapping. And at 15 or 16, I all right, back up again.
Another reverse.
So at 14, I was mowing. I was trapping a lot, 12, 13. And then at 14, I was mowing this little old lady's yard. You couldn't really see her house. They were kind of hermit type people. And I would go knock on the door after I'd mow her yard, and she would come to the door she would be gone for like 10 minutes, and she would come back with like a silver certificate $20 bill to pay for the yard. And so, I'd probably
What's a silver certificate?
it's
$20.
it's a special $20 bill, I think, that from the war or something time or
Oh,
something.
you still have them?
I think that my mom would take them from me and exchange it out for another $20
Gotcha.
bill.
Okay.
So I honestly don't know where they are.
Yep.
But after a year of mowing Mrs. Poole's yard, Mrs. Poole was probably 250 acres.
Mm-hmm.
I asked for permission to hunt.
Yep. You're
And
15, 16?
I didn't have my driver's license, so I was, I think, 15 or so. So I got permission from Mrs. Poole. At the time, it was pretty much just nail some boards in a tree, and that was pretty much the start of it, man. My mom dropped me off, and kind of evolved from there.
Did you kill your first year?
So I believe that there was I did kill a deer, and there were 2 bucks fighting, out in front of me in the field, 30 yards, and I think I had a quiver of 6 arrows, and I think I shot 4 arrows or something like that at him out there, and I think my 5th one hit him, something of that
They were
nature.
fighting,
Yes,
not
they were
even
fighting,
not
not
even
paying a lick of attention to
oh my
nothing, no.
gosh, that's
No,
great.
no.
That's great.
But that was kinda the start of the fire of deer
Hunting.
hunting and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so kinda to, back up a little bit, I'm looking at Chris right now, Chris Murphy, my cousin. I love him to death. We started and this at first episode, everybody, is gonna be introductory, right? We wanna make it introductory, we wanna talk about who we are, why we're doing this, and I think Joel just explained, we're doing this, and we're doing this to give everybody knowledge. We wanna give everybody the ability to hunt well, right? That's the goal.
That's the goal.
We
Yep.
we ran 2 episodes, and maybe one day we'll release those episodes when we look back upon it, but we wanna talk elementary, we wanna talk middle school, we wanna talk high school, we wanna talk college and PhD level. We wanna take every subject. We have somebody sitting here, Joel Snow, that has been doing this for 25 years. We'll talk about 5-star outfitters. We'll talk about what he's done and the knowledge he has, and we wanna bring it from start to end, and we wanna give you the best opportunity and the knowledge to have a great hunting season and hopefully send us some pictures and videos of the buck kills, right? I mean,
Yes.
we want our followers
Yeah.
to be successful.
Yes.
That was my biggest thing with Joel. We talked about some other things that we'll get into later, but my biggest thing when I asked you that question, what is your end game, is Joel, you have so much knowledge. Let's get it out there. And, you talked about a book potentially one day, and
Yeah.
we might still do that. And I mean, actually put it down on paper. But this is another great way to get it out there to people like Chris and I, our age, and maybe a little younger, maybe a little older, but
The new age.
the new age. That's right. That's right.
There needs to be a new age.
Yeah.
Yeah, there does.
Yeah. So,
But, we kinda, so when we started out with the age over inches thing and,
which was real quick, that was to repeat, age over inches was the name of our previous podcast, and we'll explain why later. Vulnerable is the name of this new podcast. Sorry, Joel, go ahead.
and it was so after a couple weeks, I told Corey I kinda had this word in that I had been sitting on for about 5 or 6 years, and I said, "We've I've done this a long time, and you listen to people talk, and you listen to and you see this and that and everything, and I mean, the long and the short of it is these deer that we are after, we kill them when they're vulnerable. I mean, you don't know that that's what you're doing, but whether you're doing a food plot or whether you're hunting in cold weather or whether you're hunting over a water hole that it's a drought or whether I mean, the deer that the 5 and 6-year-olds that we're after, they lay on their belly, 90% of the time, and we try to kill them when they're vulnerable.
That's right.
Yeah, so
That's right. And so our logo is a work in progress. Right now, what we have up there, we're trying to keep our logo simple,
very
right?
simple.
We want
Yeah.
to keep it simple.
But it's kind of a big word, and
Yep.
we kind of want to somehow get it to where we have good stuff out there, and yeah.
Yeah. So Joel, why don't you? I hope everybody can see it, but I mean, the word vulnerable, and then we have taken 6 images to represent what makes a mature buck or doe vulnerable, right? What
Yeah.
makes a deer vulnerable? I mean, we have a tree, we have a thermometer, we have moon phases, we have wind, we have food, we have water. We've talked about adding some more of those. We want to make the logo simple, clean, but what makes a deer vulnerable? Because like Joel said, when you get a shot at a mature deer, they're being vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
So
That's when we kill them.
yeah, that's when we kill them. So what's overview of the whole podcast again? We're going to teach you, Joel's going to teach you how to intercept a deer when they're vulnerable is the best way to explain it, right?
And really, you hunt smarter as a person, and you figure out when those vulnerable times are as a hunter. And because I don't hunt the entire season, so I guess I hunt 10 weeks out of the year is when my camps are. And and whether I knew it at the time or not, but I tried to structure my 10 camps around what I felt was vulnerable. I hunt the opener,
Right.
and then I kind of probably hunt an October moon phase, and then I hunt the rut, and then I hunt. So pretty much
Late
my
season?
camps, my camps are not all the time. My camps are structured around when I think they're vulnerable and I can kill them.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I understand that when you're a guy that works 6 days a week, you have a piece of property that you hunt, and you're jonesing to go hunting, and most people go hunting, but so if you have a big deer that you're after, kind of I think hunt the right times versus all the time.
Yep,
Hunt
exactly.
the right time versus all the time.
That almost can be a slogan, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
want to go in the woods. You got a free evening, you got a free morning, but maybe it's not right. They're
Kill 'em.
not being vulnerable, right?
Kill them when they're ready to be killed. I mean, I'm not a big turkey hunter, but I mean, if you got a couple birds on your property and you go there and it's not right, you just go home that day because that turkey's going to die when he's he's ready to die.
So the other thing about the podcast I want to get across is that this is all as authentic as we can make it. Now, this podcast, episode 1's maybe a little repetitive as to what we did with the Age Over Inches podcast, but I want to get to the point where we are asking questions Joel's never heard. Chris and I are going to prepare questions. We're going to ask Chris, Chris and I are going to prepare questions, and we're going to ask Joel, and we're going to try to, almost catch him off guard and get the realest answers we can to give everybody out there, right? We're not scripting this. These are conversations between Joel and I. Our goal is then once we get our feet on the ground is to bring in other people, right? Potential other experts in certain areas or friends of Joel's or friends of mine or whatever. And we want to sit down, have a conversation and see what makes everybody the best at hunting, or the best at, going after a deer that's vulnerable. I mean,
Yep.
I'm just trying to give an overview of the podcast. We're trying to pass the knowledge that Joel has, and we're going to get into some numbers here in a second. But I think I kind of want to talk about Age Over Inches for a minute. And so we are currently in Joel's lodge, okay? And we started out with Age Over Inches, so we had a conversation at a restaurant and then we came up with a name. Joel and I went back and forth. We come up with a name and then it's Age Over Inches. We come up with a logo. We really drove it into the ground. And then, we did a couple episodes. We were sitting on couches and chairs and it was in front of the TV and it felt good. It was fun, right? Those couple episodes were fun.
Yes.
And then we reviewed them. We talked about them. And then one day I get a text message from Joel. He's like, "Hey, I got to tell you something." And I'm like, "Shit, here we go." And he says, "We can't do Age Over Inches. We can't do the name Age Over Inches." And I'm like, "Okay." I think you thought I was going to take it a little harder than that.
I did. I kind of thought that I was sticking a knife in your heart or something. And
no.
But it was.
So why did we change?
It was between my now son-in-law, who's honest to the core. Yep. He my daughter just got married this weekend.
Yep.
And
congratulations.
Thank you. And between him and then another friend who was here that has hunted for 20 years, and he kind of saw our setup and everything. And he said, and he's kind of looking, he says, he goes, Age Over Inches. Are you fucking kidding me, Joel? I mean, he said, I said, I'm kind of a age and inches person, and so
Because what we were saying was that you should shoot a mature buck, and we didn't.
which I told you that's kind of the basis of my business that I pound into people and everything, as far as when a deer walks out, you're not looking at his rack. You're looking at the chest and his front legs. Do his legs look long? Do they look short? What does his belly look like? What is his, I mean, when you're here for 5 days, when you got lemons, you make lemonade. I mean, if a
Right.
good 140, 150 5-year-old walks out, man, you're here for a 5-day hunt. I mean, you harvest that animal.
Are you, Joel? A 140, 150 is a pretty unbelievable buck. I mean, yeah. I
Dude,
mean,
when people hunt with you for as long as they've hunted with you, everybody wants a freaking booner, but
yeah,
and
yeah.
all, yeah.
So I think the point is that we come up with this, and we'll show it. We'll show it eventually. We came up with this logo that was called Age Over Inches, but Joel's right. It should have been called Age and Inches, because it almost said that if you're hunting a property and you know what deer are there, and you
You
know,
shoot the oldest, biggest deer. I mean,
yeah,
that's your goal.
and
Shoot the
then
oldest, biggest deer.
And I think who I met and who talked to you said, "Okay, Joel, then why the fuck did you kill that 200-inch deer a couple years ago, right?" Then you have a fucking 128 point that's 8.5 years old. So we didn't mean it to be contradicting, but then we kind of looked at it, talked about it, and it was a little, because I'm the same way. If I know there's a 180 on my
Dude, I
property,
mean,
yeah, I mean,
in a Midwestern herd, $100, 2 out of 100 are 170 plus, and 15 out of 100 are 150 plus.
that's kind of your
That's
numbers.
kind of the numbers.
So say that again.
2 out of 100 are 170 plus.
Okay.
15 out of 100 are 150 plus.
Really?
So
Yeah.
you're chasing a very small portion of the
Yeah.
deer. I mean, I've gotten properties that hadn't been hunted for 10 years, 12 years, and you're can't wait to get your chops on it and everything, and a 130-inch 8-pointer runs the freaking property. I mean, there's these isolated fields, and a 150, 160 walks out, and everybody says, this 130-inch 8-pointer 7-year-old walks every deer off the field.
Right. Right.
And you got to shoot them deer too. I
Yeah.
mean, you got to shoot. Yeah.
I mean, they're almost like, I call them bully
I mean,
bucks.
correct, bully bucks. The ones you cringe are the the 145, 150-inch 3-year-old 10-pointers when somebody shoots that. And
Yeah.
I mean, if it's somebody's biggest deer they've ever killed, it's hard to not be happy for somebody.
Right.
I mean, it's
Right.
hard to not be happy for somebody. You be happy for them and say, okay, we move on from this.
Yeah. And I
next
mean,
time.
Joel, you have said to me so many times that you have created, it's not so much about the hunt, it's more about the experience of coming
It's
here.
the experience.
You
Yep.
have created a
Yeah.
very solid group of guys that are fucking stoked to come to Joel Snow's house and lodge and hunt his
I mean,
property.
most
And
people say this is their favorite week of the year when they
that's
come.
right. I
Yeah,
believe it. I've
favorite
been
week of
here.
the year.
I've spent some time here with hunters, and when you got the big spread of food and you got, Denise cooking, and everybody's hanging
And
out.
you
It's
have that,
awesome.
and then you have that feeling in your stomach every time you sit down,
Yeah.
I mean, we don't put somebody somewhere just to put somebody somewhere.
Right.
When you're sitting somewhere for a reason.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yep. There's a whole strategy that we're gonna get into behind it.
But
I
I
mean,
mean, there is a lot of places out there where, I mean, I know people that have guided at other places, and they said, these are my 2 woods that I had for the year as a guide, and we've killed the 2 deer that I want to kill come October, and I still have 20 people to take for the season. So
which, I mean, kind of gets into why you got into outfitting. So,
correct.
tell
Yeah.
us a quick story on why you got into
So
outfitting.
I went to Illinois we won't say the name of the place, if it's even a place
I was going to
anymore.
say, is it
If
still
it's
in
even a
business?
place anymore.
Because this is 25 years, no, 20, 20,
This is
15, 20,
probably
20 years.
maybe a couple years before this, so this could be 27 or 27 years ago,
Okay.
something like that, because I've done it myself for 25 or 26 years now. So,
Okay.
and I went on a hunt, and the whole time I was there in Illinois, I just was thinking, man, I kind of think it's way better hunting at home. And at the time, I had taken friends and relatives and different people hunting and had some success. And I come home and I had a plumbing and heating company, which I had done for 25 years. And um, and through the plumbing and heating company, I took care of some property owners and some stuff, some people that owned some farms and some. So, I kind of had an in on several properties. And at the time, there was really no leasing. If this was the late 90s, there was no leasing going on.
You were kind of the pioneer
There
of
was
that.
no
I mean,
leasing going on in Ohio.
you were one of the first
Yeah.
people, if not one, you might have been one of the first people to
I
ever
would
do
say
it.
I was probably the first in Ohio. I mean,
Really?
if I was
Yeah,
to say.
I agree.
Yeah. And there was no leasing going on. And so I wrapped up a couple properties and um, ran an ad in Peterson's bow hunting magazine.
Okay.
I mean, not an ad. I'm saying just in the classifieds in the back.
I don't
And
even know. Chris, do you know Peterson's magazine?
Never heard of it before.
Never heard of it either. Sorry. Joel, he was probably like 2 years old. I was probably like 8
Yeah.
years old. But go
So
ahead.
Peterson's bow hunting magazine, I just in the classifieds had a little ad ran and got a couple calls, typical East Coast people looking to head and some boys from New Jersey. And I think I returned a call and they wanted to come hunt. And I mean, at the time, I think I was probably $2,500 or something like that. And they wanted to come on a hunt, but they did not want to stay at a hotel. So I had a house my house has a walkout basement and everything, but it was not finished at all. So set up some beds and some cots or whatever in the basement, and they stayed in my basement. And I think my wife, which had a full-time job and worked at the time, and we had one child, and she did the cooking, and so the first couple people stayed in my basement.
I didn't know that. So the kitchen, the living room, nothing of that was
None
there?
of that was there.
So it was just a basement.
So just a wide open basement.
Like literally concrete walls?
Correct. They walked upstairs and ate.
So you plopped open some cots and they slept on the cots.
Correct.
I love
Yep.
that, Joel. That's
So
great.
so then of course the next year was then the framing up of the basement and turned it into a kitchen and bedrooms and bathroom and everything in the basement. And then, when you do that, just like anything, once you have outgoing money, you need a little bit more incoming money.
Right.
So 3 or 6 become 9 people, become 12 people,
Right.
become, that's my recommendation to, I'm sure to any business is, I think grow your business by word of mouth that was my key that I felt. I felt if you try and grow, because whenever I tried to grow by advertising, I got a lot of shit people.
Oh.
When I grew by word of mouth, good people tell good people, and I just built by, yeah, I mean,
they almost want to bring good people because it's a
correct.
representation of them.
Correct. If somebody brings a derelict with them, they're like just like you said, they think that's a a mirror image of them, and so they don't want to.
Right.
Yeah. So, but that's kind of how I built the business, and then as it started growing, and 6 became 12, became 18, became 20. Then I was, just the nature of the beast. I was at the Ohio Deer and Turkey Expo, And at the time, North American whitetail is about to come North American whitetail television. And at the Deer and Turkey Expo, Pat Reeve was at had a booth set up there. And I mean, I knew who Pat was from HS Strut TV or HS Strut hunts and stuff and everything. I don't know if you guys knew
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
or
yeah.
yeah, he was on HS Strut videos and
Yeah.
stuff. So I knew of Pat, and I introduced myself and just kind of told what I did, and later that summer, my phone rings and it's a Minnesota call, and it's Pat Reeves, and he wanted to come hunt. So, you know, then you kind of get caught up in it and think that this publicity is going to take you to the next level. And so Pat come on a hunt that year, and I think he did not kill, but he may have seen a 200 incher.
Really?
Yeah, and filmed them and everything. And then that summer, he asked if he can bring somebody else along with him, if he can bring Stan Potts with him. And, you know, probably from all the Realtree videos, I knew who Stan was and everything. And so then all of a sudden I hear that Pat is no longer with North American Whitetail. And then I get a phone call later that summer from Stan Potts seeing if he's okay.
Oop, I forgot to turn my phone off. Go ahead. Keep
He
going.
had his foot in the door and was seeing if it was okay for him to come.
Yep.
So Stan come, I met Stan and we became friends, and
He-
kind of the
s-
rest was history.
yeah, Stan ended up killing a 198, 200. What did he
Yeah,
kill? What did he?
Stan killed a knocking on 200-inch whitetail here and a couple
Yeah.
others, and now I became friends with. I went to Minnesota to Pat's, met some good guys out at Pat's. I met Mark Wimpy at Pat's, and Mark and I became, lifelong friends. Mark was a cameraman for North American Whitetail at the time. I went to Tom Enderbow's. I met Tom Enderbow. Tom Enderbow at the time was making some of the first trail cameras. He had Pelican cases, like camouflage Pelican cases, and they were like Kodak cameras in the Pelican
Oh, I
case.
didn't know that.
Yep.
So it was kind of like
So
the
it was a Pelican case with a camera in it with a little wire harness clipped to it. So basically, it was taking pictures on an SD card with a little Kodak camera in it.
now, Chris, we got fucking self-service from
From the comfort of my home.
yeah, from the comfort of your home, right?
So that was some of the first, probably. I mean,
Yeah,
other
that's wild.
than the old Moultries with the roll of camera film, and I would take it to.
I didn't know. So they had literally
I had a roll of film.
that you would go and have
I
developed.
would have to go developed, and there would be fucking 24 coon pictures or whatever. And
So rewarding.
Yeah, the raccoons are in there just fucking scarfing up the corn,
yeah,
right?
yes. So
No.
that was some of the first cameras.
I
Yeah.
didn't know that. I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
So needless to say that the cameras have changed things.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
cameras have changed things. But at the time of then once Stan killed that big deer, and then the phone rang off the hook at that time. I mean, I'm talking like off the hook.
So how many hunters did you get up to at one time? I mean, how many hunters did you have at Five Star Outfitters at one time? 1 year.
I mean, I'm going to say that, just like the growing pains of any business, and you think bigger is better. And I'm going to say could have been doing 8-man camps at the time. 8-man camps.
8-man camps, and you got somebody helping you on.
Correct. At the time, I had people helping at the time.
Okay.
Two people per. But the problem with it was with 8 people, it just seemed like there was always a cancer in the group, somebody that didn't feel like they were being taken care of, and then a cancer cell spreads throughout the whole camp.
Yeah.
And I was good enough that I could tell that 8 was too many,
Right.
because I wasn't personable with everybody.
Right.
And then at the time, Stan introduced me to Greg Ritz. And one year I went down to Greg's, and he at the time had game trails in Kentucky. And I went down one year, met, and then went down the following year, and Greg and I talked, and we decided to partner up. And that was when we started Hunt Masters Lodge. And
Which are on your cornhole boards that I built you.
Yes, you did.
Fucking
A long time ago.
14 years ago. Yeah.
Probably 14 years ago. So we partnered up, and like the year that we partnered up, Game Trail sold. So here's this pristine 10,000 acres in Kentucky on the Ohio River that's only about 3 hours from me, and I was going to be running both places, and it sold. So then it was kind of like in scramble mode.
Wait, I didn't know that. You were gonna run.
I was going to run everything. Yeah.
down in Kentucky.
Yep.
How are you gonna do that, Joel?
I
How do
would
you run
be-
Ohio and Kentucky?
I would be like getting it ready in the summer and the fall and the setup and everything. But there would probably be like a manager there other than me
Okay.
at the time.
So you took on how many acres in Kentucky?
10,000 acres.
So you took on 10,000 acres. You're trying to manage a growing business in Ohio with this
But-
is, what year is this? Roughly 2010.
12 or 13 years ago. So if you made the boards 14 years ago, it was 14 or 15
yeah,
years ago.
Yeah, you're right. So, okay,
14
now
or 15 years ago.
I genuinely didn't know that. So okay.
So then the Alcoa company at one time owned that 10,000 acres, and then I think they sold it to the Baldwin Piano Company
Yeah.
they were logging it for
Roughly 2010.
12 or 13 years ago. So if you made the boards 14 years ago, it was 14 or 15 years ago.
Yeah, you're right. So, okay,
14
now
or 15 years ago.
I genuinely didn't know that. So okay.
So then the Alcoa company at one time owned that 10,000 acres, and then I think they sold it to the Baldwin Piano Company
Yeah.
they were logging it for pianos, I guess. But they like parceled it up and sold it. So Greg had this nice following of hunters, and he kind of felt like he would lose them. So we tried to take on something in Illinois, something in Missouri. So we had like multiple states going on, and it did not, didn't work out.
You're spreading yourself too thin.
Everybody's
Everybody's spreading themselves too thin.
And but I will say that some of so one of the customers from Greg's that came here was just at my daughter's wedding.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
needless to say that some of those relationships worked out really well. Tom
Right.
Gibson, I don't know if I think you know
I
Tom
have
Gibson.
met Tom. Yeah.
These were some of the Greg's customers that came here that became, over the years, have become really good friends and have become part of my clientele and stuff.
Right.
So it wasn't all bad, but with Greg, it kind of became you're trying to have a profitable business, and and it's unfortunately the whitetail hunting business is a thing that the more people you take, I mean, it's not like another business where if you want to make more money, you take more, the more people you take, the more deer that get killed, the more
Right.
it's kind of a revolving door. If you take this many hunters, you need more properties, so you're spending more money. So really after it seemed like maybe 16, 17, 18 years, I kind of really figured out the size I wanted to be and the amount of numbers I could take to make a living. Um, I had seasonal helpers. I got rid of all the seasonal helpers, took on Tim Woods. So then I figured all my seasonal people could just help pay for one person. And then so Tim and I kind of got it to the size that was very manageable just for me and him. And we still might have my father-in-law help during the rut or whatever, but we just got to a good size to where, because what happens is if you take too many people, you start shooting 3-year-olds and 2-year-olds. I
Right.
mean,
Right. You got to balance it.
you got to balance it and have to where a season begins, that if I have 35 different parcels, I try to have 40 4-year-old plus deer to chase.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I try to have X amount of deer to chase. And you love it when you kill strangers because they were ones not on your
They were
checklist.
bonus
Yeah,
bucks.
bonus bucks, not at the beginning of the year and stuff. And I mean, I had a property this year that I had killed 4 bucks, and not one of them was,
They were all bonus
they were all
bucks.
bonus bucks.
Jeez.
Yeah. So,
So what is, and Chris, I'm gonna have to, by the way, we're keeping this real, so like I gotta use the restroom. We got Chris Murphy over there that's gonna jump in on the conversation when I'm
tell
ready.
them. So,
Hold on real quick, I gotta
Yep.
ask this. So what is the most amount of people you had in one season at your camp, and what is the perfect number? Because the reason why we also want to get into the outfitting is, if anybody wants to become an outfitter, you have Joel Snow that's going to tell you, one of the things that we said at the beginning of this podcast is, I said, Joel, you have to be very transparent. He may or may not answer questions I'm going to ask, but we want Joel to be
I mean,
transparent.
it would also be nice to I would like to tell stories on what makes the perfect customer.
Right. No,
You
that's
know,
so
because
much insight.
if you come in somewhere as a stranger into my home or somebody's home in Illinois or somebody's home in Iowa, and if you're an asshole,
You
I'm
don't,
not going to really
yeah.
work hard for you.
Yeah.
If you're a good person and not a pain in the ass, I'm going to work hard, probably
Right.
work harder for you than I am for the asshole.
Yeah, because
So,
I mean, let's also preface that Joel's lodge is on his property, so his home is close by. The lodge is here, so these people he brings
I mean,
are part of his house.
correct.
They're part of his home.
That was the fun part of my business was it was a family business. My kids come and eat. My kids, when they're coming home from volleyball practice or practice, they're texting what's for supper. And a lot of people grew up with my kids and everything, and that's
Yeah.
kind of a pretty cool
No,
yeah,
pretty cool.
pretty
So
cool thing.
you still didn't answer the question.
Oh, yeah.
What's the most amount of
I'm
hunters you
gonna
had?
say at one time there may have been knocking on 80 for a year.
Knocking on 80.
Knocking on 80.
What have you
And then
found?
nice is about half of that.
So 40,
I'm probably 45 to 50.
50.
45 to 50.
And exactly, you don't have to give me exact
But
number.
if you go back and do the math, and I said 10 weeks to 11 weeks out of the year, I mean, I'm 4 people, 5 people per camp.
4 or 5 people per camp.
And that's
8.
perfect.
Yeah, that's perfect.
That's
And
personable attention and just
Yeah.
that's perfect.
And so we didn't really, when what you've been doing the outfitting business, we don't have to be exact, 20, 25 years?
26 years.
26
This will be
years.
26,
Okay,
the
26 years.
year.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
Very good. Chris, I do have to use the restroom. You good?
Yeah.
So by the way, to let everybody know, we are gonna have a camera on Chris. We kind of stole Joe Rogan's podcast with Jamie. Chris is unbelievable. He's running the soundboard. He is running 3 cameras. One's on me, one's on Joel, one's main on us. We're gonna have a 4th camera on Chris eventually.
We had a camera on Chris.
We did
and
have a
We
camera.
came in today
And it
figuring out problems and glitching problems, and Chris's camera was working.
Yeah, and now we didn't get to work. So we're going to move ahead because this has been drawn out for 4 weeks. We're all excited to get it out there, but eventually we're going to have a camera on Chris. Maybe we can have him jump over here on camera. Actually, Chris, why don't you set it up on the main camera, jump over here while I use the restroom? Come talk to Joel.
Okay.
Why don't you also introduce yourself? And yeah, he's smirking over here. Joel and I are pretty outgoing. My cousin Chris is outgoing, but he's not as outgoing as us. But fuck it. Get over here. Get your ass over here, you good looking son of a bitch.
And really quick, Chris is kind of a new hunter,
Oh yeah.
which kind of brings a great perspective to this podcast, and so he can ask questions that he wants to know answers to and everything. So
Yeah, absolutely. It is so quiet when you take the headphones
Is
off.
it?
Yeah. Chris, get over here and talk a little bit, okay? We want to get you on camera.
And you can even bring your Miller Lite with you or your Bush Light And Chris is gracious enough to come here for these evenings. It is 9:15 right now. Chris is coaching junior high baseball, correct?
Yeah.
I coached junior high softball for 5 years while my daughters were through junior high softball, but it's a great thing though, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's enjoyable. I like interacting with the kids. I mean, we've had the discussion off camera before. I'm huge with developing.
So you have at junior high, you have all levels, correct?
So we have 7th and 8th graders.
But I mean skill levels. You
Oh, yeah.
have people that play travel ball that are very good, and people that might need help throwing the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get both sides of the coin. You get some kids that need a little bit more work than the others, and we try to balance it out. I mean, with our team this year, we didn't have enough for a 7th and 8th grade team, so we mixed both.
Mixed them both together.
So we
try to play them. I mean, try to play. I mean, I was very honest whenever Corey, you got to let us finish here. So I was very honest with the parents as soon as the season started, and I said, if it's a very competitive game, I'm going to play the best people and try and win the game.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a game that is not as competitive, everybody's going to play.
Yeah, we sit everyone down. The number one thing we say is fair is an equal and equal isn't fair. So yes, everyone's going to have an opportunity at playing, but playing time for some might be more limited than others. So this year we have mixed teams. An 8th grader is going to play over a 7th grader a little bit more just because they're following year.
Getting ready for high school.
Yeah, and I mean, our league is all developmental. To be quite frank, we do not care if we win our league or win 10 games, whatever.
Because just like mine, it's not a school affiliated, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. We're a club sport.
Yeah.
So
yep.
It's almost we drive to every game, no buses. So
before we get Corey back in here, so I want to hear about what got you excited about deer hunting this year and your story of what got you super jacked about deer hunting. No.
Not really. Corey, real quick, hit the unmute button on 3. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, Chris, give us your introduction now. It might have echoed a little bit. Go ahead, do your introduction.
Yeah. So I'm Chris. I kind of work the soundboard and everything. Corey's already discussed that, but Corey and I talked about this. He was saying something about a podcast, and I got excited. I mean, I've known of Joel. I've never met him. I probably have met you before, but
We're
real long time ago.
basically very close to family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Cousins by cousins,
Yes.
cousins.
Yep.
So I've known of you, but like if I've met you, it was before I can remember probably.
Yep.
And so Corey gave me the opportunity, and I was like, yeah, I'm more than willing to come hang out and learn, because like Corey and Joel said, I'm a novice at hunting. I've deer hunted. I mean, when I was in 5th and 6th grade, used to do the youth hunts.
We'll tell a story one day about
Yeah.
the youth hunts with me,
Yeah.
his cousin
Oh,
Corey.
yeah, you told me about that.
Oh, yeah.
It was never successful, so I kind of lost interest in it. And then I would say probably when I was able to drive, I was like, I want to get back into it. I want to try it. I actually want to understand deer hunting. I think it's hard to do. I
But
mean,
sometimes through high school, like girls and sports kind of
yeah,
take you away from
that
it does.
yeah, that definitely
Yeah.
was a factor. And so I talked to Grandpa. Grandpa let me hunt. Junior year, I killed a doe during gun season, and that kind of sparked everything. Junior year sparked everything, and then senior year, I was like, going into that summer, I was like, all right, we're gonna put down bait. I want a camera. I want to learn. So I really started to, and I mean, we were seeing some really nice bucks, does, the whole 9 yards. And then I had a buddy that he wanted to start hunting, so I took him back there. I let him go back there and hunt, and I ended up, the first buck I ever killed was an 8-point. He definitely wasn't an age over inches buck. After listening to you guys talk about that, I was like, ooh, my first buck.
No, listen real quick. I don't mean to interrupt, but I want to be clear about this podcast is that we are not hating on anybody that goes out and hunts to fill the freezer or anything. We want people to go out and have fun, right, Joel?
Dude, it's a pyramid. I
Yeah.
mean, you start here and you get to here.
And your goal starts going up.
I lived it and went through it. I mean, my goals were a 125, a Pope. I just wanted to shoot a Pope and Young when I was at this age.
Right.
And then next thing I know, I wanted to shoot an Ohio big buck that was 140 inches. And then it just takes what excites you as a hunter.
That's right.
What excites you?
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. Sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
I would say after killing that 8-point is when I was super excited. I was ready to mount him, got him in the freezer, and then like 3 days later, Grandpa calls me. He says, "Hey, I buried the head. Our freezer broke." And
Shout out Grandpa Tom, right?
Yeah,
We got
yeah.
the same Grandpa, by the way.
yeah, so that was pretty devastating, but
Grandpa Tom.
turned that one into a European mount. And this year, I mean, kind of did the same thing. I tried, we turned the topper off of a truck bed into a blind, kind of a hillbilly blind. So we turned one of those, turned that into that, and went out. I mean, this year was probably the most I've ever hunted, and I really got a spark for it. And then Corey allowed me to, he was showing me some pictures of bucks on his property, and we were talking, and I think you asked me or I asked you if I can come hunt, or it was vice versa. And so we went out, and I think we sat one evening, and I ended up getting a doe, and I think we saw a buck.
Oh yeah,
We saw bucks that night. Nothing ever came in, and we got the doe, and I was like, all right, when we hunt next, like, I want to come back out here.
Badgered me once he was hooked.
The fire has started.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
once he saw, so Grandpa's isn't the best kind of hunting, but once he saw quality deer, he texted me every night, morning to go hunting, which I loved. And I said, if you put in the effort, I'll put you on a nice buck.
So we went out on a Saturday. We went out on a Friday evening, and I don't know why we weren't gonna go out on the Saturday morning, and I told Corey, I was like, I want to go out. We need to go out, blah, blah, blah. And Corey was like, all right, well, we got to go out real early. And I was like, I'll be at your house. Tell me what time. And I think I was up before Corey at his house, knocking on the door, giving him phone calls. And I don't think he was up yet. And
No.
so we went out, and I think I don't even know what time we were out there, super early. And we sat there till about noon. I mean, we saw a couple shooter bucks that Corey's like, take it. And I was like, no, we're going to wait. We're going to wait. And then
I showed him too many pictures. He got picky.
yeah, I got real picky.
Already he's getting picky.
And then we ended up, we went out there one evening, saw the target buck, missed.
No, he hit it. You hit the buck.
I hit it, but it was missed. So that we spent
2 days.
2 days looking for that. Sorry, Tim and Mandy, probably didn't work.
Yeah.
Probably 2 full days that week. We were out there doing that. And I mean, the drone we bought a drone, flew a drone up, tracked it. We ended up jumping him. So we figured we knew he was going to live. So that was peace of mind. That was the big thing for me, is I didn't want to wound it and never find it. And then it died.
Right. We'll be talking about the drone thing sometime.
Yeah.
And then Corey was going to Vegas.
Yep.
And he was like, hey,
so now he has given the green light for you to go hunt without him.
Yeah. Well, at first it wasn't. At first it was go.
Was there a well, I was gonna say, was there a do not shoot, but that had already happened, so never mind.
Yeah. He knew what he was supposed to shoot, not shoot.
So he told me one day, he was like, go put bait out for me. I'm gone. We're gonna need to. And I was like, okay. And then that morning he texted me, he said, go out and hunt.
The wind's right.
Was he telling you what stand, what wind, what?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. He was telling me everything, and he was like, go sit. He goes, don't waste the drive all the way out there just to put corn out. And right as like you had that extra 30 minutes, I actually looked at my phone to see what time it was, and I popped up, and it was a oh shit moment. Like, there he is. I had a big buck come out, and he was 27 yards. He was quartered away, hit him. And I knew it was a good shot, because I mean, it was weird, because when I hit him, he didn't take off. He like stopped for a second. I saw the arrow in him, and then he like trotted and then sprinted. And I'm like freaking out, trying to get a hold of Corey, which he was on a flight. And I'm like texting his wife. I was like, are you on a plane? Where are you at? And she was like, we're on the plane. I was like, okay, give the phone to Corey. I just hit a big buck, and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, we get off the plane in an hour and a half. Like, I need to see this buck. And it turned out to be a true 12x12 or true 6x6 with
6x7.
6x7 with two little
triple and a quad or a double split.
Double split, yeah.
Yep. End up scoring what, 170?
171.
Yep, 171, 172.
Yeah. All on your own.
All on my own.
He did it.
It was exciting.
Boom. There's Chris.
We'll make it quick.
Yeah. Probably. I'll leave and you can talk by yourself. Why make me another drink?
I'll do an introduction. Yeah, let's make fun. Go make a drink.
I'm good. Keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. So the once again, my whole thing with Chris is I just said, Chris, I want you to show effort. If you show effort, I'm gonna put you onto some good deer. I had a couple different properties. We'll kind of get into how I learned from Joel, how I understand the way that he did things, and I kind of tried to replicate on a very small, for me personally, not an outfitter, but I told Chris, I said, if you put in effort, I'll take you to some good spots. And he put in a ton of effort this year. And finally I said, okay, I'll take you. And he got a great opportunity, to great buck. And I think he's hooked now. Now we talk about deer hunting a lot. So
now you're going to go get in the tree and he's already going to be there.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. Yeah. Well, we won't. The buck that he shot was the, hopefully.
Did you know the deer?
We did know the deer.
You did know
Yeah,
the deer.
we had him on camera 2 times before that. We actually saw him on the drone while we were looking for the first buck that he and Chris made a good shot, by the way. We had an issue with the bow jammed. It wasn't Chris's fault, but when he shot that buck, when we were looking for that buck, we saw that buck on the drone in the woods, kind of just walking around. You can kind of tell head down. He was kind of in rut on the opposite side of the woods. And then it wasn't a week later, you end up having him and had a nice shot at him and took him.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Sweet. Yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, that buck scored 171. The buck that he shot was a teeny bit bigger. Joel, you saw the video and picture. He's a
Yeah.
teeny bit bigger. Joel said, "You let who shoot that buck?"
Yeah,
I said,
you're crazy.
I said, I do love my cousin Chris. But no, Joel, I want to go into a couple things about you. Is that okay?
Sure.
Actually,
Yeah.
can I ask Joel a question real quick
Yeah.
before it's about the outfitting? So one thing I do have is from when you started until now, how did you decide? We don't have to get into numbers, but how did you decide what to charge a hunt?
Good question.
That all kind of comes down to bills. I mean, so as you become kind of a more valuable commodity, so I will say I was at 4,900 for longer than I should have been. I was probably maybe like 6-7 years, almost the same price. And I never, and then basically, then came COVID time, and then I kind of had to do an explanatory, when diesel was whatever, $5 and gas was $4 and everything. And then it was like, I took a great big jump one year. And, and I tried to do a explanation letter to everybody, and they said, you didn't need to do that. I mean, we expected this. So, so between basically, I guess, all the overhead costs and the cost of making a living and the lower number of hunters, basically the math just kind of played out to what I wanted to be at and everything. So, yeah.
Makes sense.
What's the cheapest
God
investment
dang,
you've ever
man,
made?
freaking, but the problem is it's almost like this. So you send the bill in February, the first invoice are in February. So when you send the invoice in February, you're kind of set. So if groceries and gas goes to $5 and that is kind of the bad thing, but it really don't. I mean, but I will say the biggest thing over the past couple years has been the freaking groceries, man. I mean, holy cows, groceries.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody feels the grocery bill.
Inflation.
Yeah.
So is yours just all up front, or do you do like a down payment?
I do 3 payments throughout the year.
Okay.
I do a third, but I mean, when half of your hunters are millionaires, I mean, they just stroke you a check for the hunt. I mean, but yeah.
That leads me kind of into Joel. Joel is a guy that's been in our local area forever. He went to school here. He grew up here. A lot of people know Joel. A lot of people know Joel from a hunter as a person. Joel isn't a known person on the level. You're a very private person, right?
Yeah.
Joel's
pretty
always,
private.
this is pretty.
This is kind of out of the box.
This is fucking
Yes.
out of the box. So, I want to go into, the podcast. Why would you listen to a guy like Joel Snow? And I'm going to I'm going to ask questions to Joel that he's got to explain or talk about his past or his successes, because we have to give some notoriety to this podcast, right? So I guess, Joel,
the professional hunters come and hunt here. So that kind of says a little something.
yes, it
doesn't
does.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
So,
what about you?
I kind of had that conversation with you that just just to put in perspective, so if somebody has like you or Chris, somebody has a property or two, you, I call it, you play the game with one or two deer for the season. And whenever you put up your cameras or put out your mineral site, you cross your fingers and hope that you have a deer to play the game with. You know, I play the game with 30 or 40 deer a year, every year for 26 years. So, you know,
Right.
I'm talking 1,000 deer that are mature 5-year-old deer. I play the game with every year.
So that's something you and I
Mhm.
spoke about, because I said you have, and kind of, this was just a few weeks ago. We were standing here and Joel said something to me like among those lines.
Yeah.
It kind of, I think it kind of hit you
I
because
mean, I
you're so
really,
used to it.
because, you know, I've told you that, I guess, you know, when you do it for a living, you kind of take for granted everything that you have learned over 26 years, and you just get good at your job, and you just, I
Yeah.
don't know.
So, I mean, you bring in, let's say, 50 hunters. Of those 50 hunters, on average, how many of those hunters per year are getting a shot or killing? I'm saying taking a shot at a deer or killing a deer
I
in
mean, I
camp.
would say that it is probably 70 or 80% actually have a shot at um a 4-year-old plus deer,
That is
you
a
know.
sickening number to me, because that means, in my opinion, Joel is hanging the stands, he's hanging the cameras, he's doing the mineral sites,
I
food
mean,
plots.
so it's Tim and me. Tim
Yeah.
is just as good at what Tim is just as good at what I do.
So Tim with Whitetail Properties, by the way.
Tim Woods.
Tim
Yeah.
Woods. Tim Woods, great guy, knows food plots, knows hunting, kills monster deer himself. Love
I
Tim.
mean,
Tim's been with you for how long?
um probably knocking on that 15 years.
Yep.
Yes.
So when you put it in perspective, you have two guys. Tim and Joel are literally, instead of one guy hunting a woods and hoping to get a deer, you guys are doing it 30 to
I mean,
40
I'm going to
times a
say
year.
that we probably this year killed in the 60 some percentile of kills this year.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
So
So if you take if you're knocking on, if you take 46 people and you're knocking on 30 kills or whatever, that's as it gets to January, you're scratching for
yeah.
mature deer to kill,
Right.
because we've killed about everything.
Yeah, and I think that also kind of goes back to you took a deer 2 years ago? Okay, so before that, you hadn't hunted in
I hadn't, so I did I had a wife and 3 little girls, and at the time I'm building my business, the Stan Potts thing came to, the introduction to Tom Miranda. Tom Miranda had, he had the idea of starting a TV show called, he teamed up with Matthews Solo Cam, basically like guys hunting with their own cameras. He set us up with our camera packages and gave us everything. And so then the problem with that is, I mean, in the beginning, there may have been 6, 7, 8 of us or whatever, across the country that were joined the Matthew Solo Cam team, and then Tom would buy the footage from us, and so I have a family, 3 daughters, running a deer business and trying to kill deer, and it just became a lot. I mean, the last year like I said, I lost a deer, and I lost a deer in Kentucky, but they found him later. And if I would have had that deer, I think I would have shot 5 over 150 in 9 days. 9 days of hunting. 5 over 150 in 9 days of hunting. And that was Ohio, Kentucky, Kansas, and Illinois. I mean, I was coming home from Kansas and I wanted to stop at a rest area in Indiana and go hunt behind the rest area. I mean, that's how it was going.
You're on a hot streak.
Yeah. So,
Jesus.
but you know,
So
then it just gets to where you just feel that, you know, my kids are getting into junior high school and sports and we're volleyballers and everything. And, I don't know. It just kind of then I just was kind of done with it.
but you're killing through your customers. I mean, that's my opinion.
Correct. So so at that time, that was, I think, 2014, I, then decided that, I was done with the TV stuff. I wasn't, you know, the dominant bucks thing. 8 of us became 10, became 15, became 20, you know, and I get it. Tom had to have a lot of cameras out there for more footage and everything. And I was just kind of tired of it. I quit taking the TV people. Just it was a pain in the ass dealing with DoubleTree stands and them being here, and at the end, most of them want to come and their hunt be comped just because you're, you know, them putting you out there is good enough. But when you've become good enough that that you're full every year and with a waiting list, there's no reason to take camera people
Right.
no more. So I kind of quit the whole camera thing. And at that time, I saw an influx of, you know, the area that no leasing was going on to lots of out-of-staters trying to lease up my farms. People were all around me. So in 2014 or 15 or whatever, I just basically went, that's why you didn't see Joel on no social media. I just basically went quiet, kept to myself, and yeah, went from there.
Yeah,
So
you went radio silent.
yeah, I
And
went radio silent.
that's right. Now you're
Yeah.
kind of on the radio. But I mean,
Yeah,
it's
so now it's too late. I mean, there's
Yeah.
people all around.
it's
So
different times now.
it's different times. So
But one thing I will say, and this is my opinion, because I hear people bitch about leasing and hunting property in this. I hate to tell people there is property out there. If you want property, you want to hunt, you can get
there
property.
is. I mean, I have so most of my customers are professional type people who have busy lives. Many of them, one time or another, did the out-of-state thing. You know, you have the lease in Illinois or the lease in Ohio, where you spend your weekends. You come up here, you hang tree stands, and just like we said, I had friends that had a lease. He's all excited. He's got a big deer on his property. And he comes up here in October the 15th for the first time, and he's all pumped and excited on his lease that he's done all this work and hung all of his stands. And the one deer he is after runs across the field with a crossbow bolt in him,
Yeah.
in his neck or something, you know.
Yeah.
And that was the one deer he wanted to shoot.
Right.
So I get a lot of people that have done the whole. I had people that hunted with me. They left me, went and did their own thing in Kansas and in Illinois and everything. And they're now 55, 56 years old. And then they call Joel back and say, I feel like I have about 10 years of hunting left. I've been all over the place and I want to hunt with the best my last 10 years or my
That's right.
last 5 years or my last 6 years or whatever. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's
It's
pretty
actually
cool.
cool to hear you say
Yeah.
what you're talking about, because you're the type of person that you don't talk about yourself. And I think it would be mind boggling. I'm not going to name drop, but it would be mind boggling to people to know the people that have come through this lodge. I'm talking superstars, I'm talking mega rich, I'm talking very wealthy. People that have no idea have come through this lodge and hunted with you, and they respect you, they love you, you become friends with them. And, you know, if somebody was to pull open that phone right there and kind of look at the contacts, they'd be like,
There's a few on there.
they'd
Yep.
be like, holy shit,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So I mean,
when you get to where there's like private jets landing at the 5 miles away at the airport and everything, and you just roll out to the runway and yeah.
Yeah. So, Joel, going back to the, your past and, your history, I wanted to touch on a couple things. You have personally killed some big deer. I know you can't see it on camera. We got a couple deer behind us. Actually, the one at the very top is the one that
I mean,
you and
that's
I.
what just making we don't the biggest deer don't need to be just sometimes I look up in the wall and the story and the meaning is, and that's what some of these are. I mean, the meaning and what it means to me and stuff. I mean, the bottom deer right there was I mean, I had killed a 200 incher on a property, and I had another 200 incher the next year. There was probably two teens and a 180 or something, and as rub out comes, by rub the velvet off, you just hold your breath. You hope that they're there after rub out. And if they're there after rub out, then it's kind of like game on. See if we can get this sucker killed before he leaves for the rut. But so I had at the time, Tom Miranda was, you could pick a week for a cameraman to come with you. So he had a couple, 2 or 3 cameraman, and you picked your week, and a cameraman showed up. So when you are, when you're a deer outfitter, it's not like I can pick, November for the cameraman to show up with me. So it was like kind of the October kind of October time or whatever. Jeff Parker was showing up, and I knew Jeff. He was a friend. And he showed up, and I kind of, I hadn't had a picture of the 200 in a while. I kind of felt that the 180 could still be there. Oh, I did have him hard horned, but this deer right below you, about 2 miles away on one of my leases, I had like 1 or 2 pictures of this deer. I mean, and if his picture got taken, it wasn't because he walked in front of the camera. It was because his buddy walked in front of the camera, and he was 40 yards in the background or something.
Yeah.
Maybe got his picture twice or something. And it was just appeared tall, narrow, heavy. And then on this property that I was hunting, that I had this big deer, it was like it was like, holy shit, I think that's the son of a bitch from about 2 miles away. And he showed up, and all the other deer left. And I had back to the vulnerable thing. There was this cornfield, and the cornfield early on had got flooded out. Like this area kind of out in front of my tree stand, about however many, let's say a quarter acre or whatever, had got flooded, and it had like grown up and ragweed and stuff. So about end of July, August, I went in there and just with my 4-wheeler, I just ran over all the ragweed, knocked it all down, crisscrossed, and and then there was a rain coming, and I just broadcast some turnips and radishes and everything. And me and the cameraman, right wind, were in this stand over the standing corn, and that bully that ran everybody off,
This buck right
that
here
buck right there,
behind me.
he just materialized out of the standing corn, and you could just see rack in the standing corn, and he popped into that little green patch I had planted. And because we talk about the vulnerable. At that time, it's probably kind of warm, a little dry, and all the corn's now dry. The leaves are turning brown, and there's nothing green. So except for this little luscious green patch in the middle of a standing cornfield, and he just stepped in it to get him a little nibble. And I looked, and Jeff Parker was right here, and I looked at Jeff, and I said, I suppose you want me to shoot him. And Jeff goes, yes.
We do want you to shoot him.
So, and Stan was in camp.
Really?
Stan was in camp. Yep. So I shot and it's on Dominant Bucks. He ran out into the standing corn. There's nothing better than when you hear him running. When you hear the standing corn kind of come to a stop or whatever. And it was an evening hunt, and I think we still just waited till morning and recovered.
On the video, I just watched that YouTube video a couple days ago.
Of that hunt?
Yep, of that hunt.
Yep.
It looked like you recovered him right away.
No, it was the next morning.
Yeah, I guess
all TV makes you look like that.
So the point of me saying that is Joel is anti-filming anymore because of all the bullshit and the fluff that goes with it, right?
I mean,
it's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, there is some. Yeah.
I mean, the point, in my opinion, they missed the mark, right? They could have, and the guy that I was telling you about, oh damn it, I can't remember his name now. The hunter that does the hunting and he explains and he cooks the meat, the meat eater.
The meat eater guy.
I love the meat eater guy because he's so real. He does it. In hunting, there are no shows like that. It's all
correct. I mean, this course, that was maybe 2013 or something, or what does it say on that tag? I don't know what it says on that tag.
2010.
Huh?
2010.
Holy
2010.
shit. So, at the time that was TV. It wasn't, I mean, I got stories on a lot of famous people on stories on TV kills and stuff that you basically got all your footage and you just kind of put it together and put together a good hunt and everything.
Yeah. So, hate to jump to a harsh question. How many 200-inch bucks have you killed?
I've killed 2.
Yep.
There's so if I've done this for 26 years, I mean, I kind of thought over it. And I probably have, at one time, there was about 10,000 acres. I do not have that much now with taking less hunters. But I would say over the 25 or 26 years, there has probably been 12 in my life. In other words, 12 to play the game with or whatever. And I would say 7 or 8 of them are dead.
Yep. Hunters that your hunters that you brought in, or you.
Correct. I mean, I do not, if there is a 200-incher on farms that, I do not hunt nothing that I take people on.
Yep. That was my next point.
I do not hunt anything that I take people on. If if there is a 200-incher on a property that's a lease or whatever, I try to kill them with my hunters.
Yep.
I mean, that's
you hunt properties that you either see a deer and then you go after in
correct.
Middle of the season.
The last. So when I killed in 24 it was last year. Yeah, if I killed
23.
When I killed in 23, I had a picture of that deer on one of my leases, and then I was riding around with a hunter who had killed, and he was just riding around with me to pick up hunters, and we were about 2 miles away from my lease, and he said, "Stop the damn truck," and I said, "Does he have kickers out both sides and pliers?" I said, "I know that deer." And so the next day I knocked on door, got permission, and killed the deer.
Yeah.
Killed him.
One of the things that we're going to do with the podcast is we're going to do micro series. Eventually, we're going to try to, by the way, we're going to try to upload a video once a week. But because of Joel's schedule and because of the outfitting business, we're going to have to bank some through the summer. So we're going to do multiple of them a week, but we are going to only release them once a week. And then I have an idea for a spinoff where we get Joel in the woods he shows some tree stands, he shows some paths, he shows, his layout, how he thinks through a property. I mean, we're really going to try to educate.
This kind of came from the first time I met Chris, and Chris was here, and basically I would be very vague on something, and Chris told Corey, I would like to know more, be more detailed about that. So, in other words, I just very vaguely say you get a property, but we would like to go into a little more detail on
Everything.
yeah, get the property, and then what? Then what? What leads you to here or there, or
How do you
why
even
do
get
you
the
do?
property? How do you
Or how do you even get the property? Which is pretty freaking hard right now.
Yeah. Yep.
It is.
So I gotta tell you guys something. On Age Over Inches, when we did an episode, Joel made a comment about, well, like, I'm in the 900 club. And so Chris is laughing.
I mean, and honestly, I didn't know really what that was till I've been seeing it on some magazine covers and stuff lately.
So I go home, I look up what the 900 Club is because I didn't know and I should have admitted it on the podcast. But I looked it up, and 900 Club is you take your top 6 best bucks and they have to average a net score of 150 inches. And so after that podcast, a few days later, I'm like, wow, that's impressive. When you think about that, that's extremely impressive. There was only, I think at that time, at this time, there's only about 20 hunters that are in that 900 club. And I texted Joel and I said, so I can't remember what the question was that
You asked me about, you asked like a specific question about it, and then I said, I'm pretty sure that I have 5 that make the 900 club.
and I said, Joel, it takes $6 to make the 900 club. And you go, his exact text was, oh yeah, I definitely have that.
Like, I kind of thought I had it with 5,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah. Yep. So anyways, I think, guys, we're probably going to wrap this episode up, right? We wanted to get an introduction. I didn't even get an introduction. I don't give a shit because Joel is he's the knowledge. We're going to try to pick his brain. I'm going to read the comments. I'm going to, I want to take everybody's feedback. Our goal is to get into food plots, how to get properties, how to hang stands, how to, just everything, right, Joel?
Just everything.
I mean, we're
Just
going to,
everything.
once a
Try
week.
to turnkey it, that from property to stand to understanding vulnerable, what you might have what we call a 3-season property or a 1-season property or a 2-season property. Just know what you got, and maybe make the best of what you got.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I can tell you my personal opinion is over the last 5 years, Joel hasn't seen it because he hasn't been on social media. I actually kind of took a page out of Joel's book. I posted a couple of my pictures this year of what I took in Illinois and Ohio. I got lucky, I guess. And I read comments, I see people kill big deer, and I get so tired of the negativity. So like, Joel and I think have the same philosophy on deer. I'm trying to get to Joel's level. It might take me a few years, but if you want to go out and fill the freezer, if you want to go out and just hunt and have fun, take your kids out, we are not hating on anybody. We want everybody to go out, enjoy deer hunting, have fun, be safe, and we want to give you the best possible opportunity to take a nice mature buck, put deer in the freezer. We're just trying to help. And so, tired of the negativity, we want to make this a fun conversation, and we want to enjoy this, right?
Sounds good.
That's the goal. Hey, yep. I am Corey Arbogast. Did I not say that?
Give your introduction. Give a little something.
Yeah. My introductions real quick. My dad, Ken Arbogast, I love him to death. He wasn't a big deer hunter growing up. My dad said, I know a guy. We're kind of related to him through marriage. His name's Joel Snow. Why don't you drive up and see him? I drove up, knocked on Joel's door at, I think it was late, 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. He answered the door. I don't even think I had a cell phone at the time. And Joel invited me in. We talked for what, 2 hours, 3 hours?
Yeah.
I can't remember the story. We've talked about this a couple times now, But there was a big snow that came, and I think Joel invited me to stay. I either stayed or I can't remember if I drove home or not. But when I left there, I looked at Joel and I said, I want to be a part of this. I got into hunting. I got lucky at like 14 or 15, killed a nice buck. I'm addicted. I said, what can I do to help? And at that time, you know, Joel had started doing his filming, and we'll talk about this later, but I think I filmed a total of 4 or 5 hunts, and 4 of those 5 hunts or so equal to 3 kills.
Yeah.
So some of the dominant buck hunts, some of
Yeah.
the, you know, anyways, I
The
started.
top one.
Yeah, the top
Yep.
one was Illinois.
Yep.
So I've known Joel a very long time. You know, looked up to Joel when it's come to being a hunter. Always ask him his opinion. I try not to bother him because I know he's busy, and I always fire off a question like, how do you do this? What do you do this? I'll send him a picture with a drawing on or something. He's always supported me. He's actually given me stuff, as in, you know, whether it's money or products or whatever. I've never given him anything. So, you know, anyways, Joel's a great person, and I've learned a lot, and I'm sure we're going to get into a lot of those. I'm scared to death of fucking heights, and we'll get into some of those fun stories where Joel's put me in some predicaments that make me very, very nervous. So, yeah, that's me. I love deer hunting. And just like you all, I'm going to be learning from Joel while we do this as well. So that is the first episode of Vulnerable. Can't wait to have you guys back again. Joel, Chris, don't cut the feed. But we're excited to have everybody back. Like I said, we're going to have an episode once a week. Thank you all and have a great night.
Yeah.
Now that you have heard what makes Joel Snow different, not because he's flashy, not because he's loud or a chest pounder, but because he's put in the work to be one of the most successful hunters and guides in the industry. 26 seasons, hundreds of mature bucks, and a client roster that includes everyone from first-timers to some of the country's most known professional hunters. But this isn't a podcast about bragging. It's honestly about passing on great information. And if you made it this far, you're part of something real. This is for the guy and girl who want to hunt smarter, think deeper, and finally start killing the deer you've always dreamed about. Next week is when the real fun begins, where the lessons and information actually start. So if this hit home for you, do us a favor, subscribe, share, drop a review, or just share it within the hunting group, because the only way this community grows is if we build it together. This is Vulnerable. I'm Corey Arbogast, and we'll see you on episode 2.